Taking a break from my better MMO series, I am now progressing my Dark Knight job quest after getting him up to level 60.
Nice.
And this story is absolutely dark. And I mean, no pun intended there, but yeah, it's like super dark. The ending was just, that completely caught me off guard. Here's why the Dark Knight quest is absolutely epic. Also, as a spoiler, there are major story elements through the Dark Knight's quest up to level 60. You have been warned. So I previously did the beginning quests where I met with Sid, this angry and aggressive Al-Ra, and he has taken a charge, a sweet little innocent girl named Riel. Well, the Knights of Ishgard wanted to unalive her, so he is defending her from all of these asshats. We don't really know why the Knights want to kill her, though. I mean, she's probably in her early teenage years. I mean, like, what possible shenanigans could she have done in that time? Well, we find out that something is off about her. And we take her to the Vanu shaman, who basically has a panic attack by reading her palms. Like, to the point where he's, like, shushing us away. Okay, that's a little aggressive, a little weird. We also find out that Sid was partners with Frey, the guy whose body our grief inhabited. And now here we are. Thinking the shaman had noodles for brains, Sid doesn't quite believe him, so we unfold a plan to go and talk to the big head of the Conjurers Guild. Problem is, literally every time that Riel is outside of the castle walls, she is assaulted. The Holy See must have sent like 25 to 50 knights to kill her in this 100-yard stretch between Camp Drybone and the Observatorium. This is a little ironic, however, because I have like completed the main scenario quest for Heaven's Word, and Ishgard isn't super into killing heretics now, but nevertheless, I slaughter about 50 of these buggers, and Sid just kind of like left me to scout ahead. He's like, "You're doing a fine job, son," not assisting me with a damn thing. Well, we make it to Great Anya to talk to brother sumo wrestler, and Sid immediately insults him by calling him some young boy, which Sumi's basically like, "I'm an ancient, you twit," but in the kindest, most gentle way possible. He then reads her stars and says that she does in fact have some dragon blood in her, which is surprising, but actually kind of makes a lot of sense given that the knights want to kill her and the Vanu shaman really didn't like being around her. But how could the girl have partaken in dragon blood and not lost control? Brother sumo wrestler then says that the power is not there because she is trained, but it is innate. Well, we go to eat some eel and discuss this over, and then decide our best course of action is go to Ishgard and talk about this. I get Shadow Stride, a short-range dash. Nice! After talking it over, we decide that if she does in fact have dragon blood, then let's go actually talk to a dragon. Let's go bother Vidofnir for the umpteenth time. This poor girl is probably so sick of our shenanigans. But we have to earn her trust by gathering some flowers. Or, well, Sid and Riel need to earn the trust. I guess I already earned the trust. I don't know. Well, after fighting some honeybees, we take the flowers to a dying dragon in Mord, and as Riel approaches, she says his scent is entwined with Riel. Riel walks forward a little more, and it turns out the blood of the dying dragon's husband is inside of Riel, but she did not drink the blood itself. Her parents are the ones who drank the blood and passed it down to Riel. That's why the Temple Knights were after her. The dying dragon suggests that we talk to the small frolicking ones in Zenith, but back at Ishgard, we're approached by the Inquisitor lady named Ystride. I know it's like Ystride, or it's probably Ystride, but I call her Ystride. Riel panics, and Sid goes up to bat for Riel. She tells us that we either have to do a trial by combat, or they will burn the whole place down. Literally, the Warrior of Light standing right here, and this is probably going to be a terrible idea for you, but you know what? F around and find out. Riel charges forward and says, "Mother!" This Ystride lady basically threw her daughter into the Inquisition, saying she wasn't hers because she thought that she was an abomination. Sid has had some time to think and talk it out with Riel, and it turns out that Riel's father drank dragon blood, saying that this was decades in the making. The Inquisition pressed him, and he turned into a dragon and tried to kill Ystride, Riel's mother. Well, Ystride then locked Riel in the deepest dungeon and planned on killing her. Well, Sid follows up with the tiny ones in Zenith, and it's the Moogles, which play like a perfect in-between balance between seriousness and shenanigans. Like Sid is super serious, and then the Moogles are all nothing but shenanigans. Well, Riel and Sid get into a fight, and she asks, why does Sid even care what happens to her? Why the heck does he do any of this? She's being dragged all through hell because of his benefit, so he can basically find new ways to murder Temple Knights and try to kill himself. Moogle Boy tells us that it's time for us to go off and find some palmwort, and then clear out some monsters out in the wild, which turned out to be bugs. We meet up with Sid, and we are surprised to find that the Moogles say they have kidnapped Riel and they won't give her back. Sid goes straight berserk, and I guess I help? I don't know. Really, I'm a fly on the wall on this one. We clear out the Moogles, and then they start singing and dancing about love. This is quite literally Sid's hell. The Moogles then say that they didn't kidnap her because they wanted her. They wanted Sid to come to the realization that he actually did care for Riel. Not just as a charge, but almost like an older brother type figure or protector, and the fact that he's basically doing all this in the name of vengeance. Sid then tells Riel that he'll stand for her in the trial, but what she does after is up to her. We find out that Sid's parents were executed by the Temple Knights, and we find out a bit more about his master who saved him, and he realized that he's been using this crusade as an excuse for revenge. Now comes the trial. We all work together and prepare to fight Ystride and her goons, but it's like way off in the highlands because Ystride doesn't want to be caught up in all the whole dragon blood relative business. Well, Riel's mom is here and she starts whining about how terrible a kid is, and we start fighting. Literally, I must have killed 50 people here. All of these Ishgardian soldiers and knights, literally it's a massacre. There are bodies strewn everywhere. They are getting chunked. Hardcore. This is brutal. Then Ystride comes in and we slap the hell out of her too. She stands up to try to cast something as Sid approaches, but then falls to her knees. They go back and forth a bit, and Sid actually offers Ystride mercy because she is, of course, still Riel's mother. Then she goes on cackling mad on bonkers juice and says, "Oh, the Fury wills it." Riel walks up and simply says, "I hope you enjoy your time in the halls of Fury." Sid executes the mother in one brutal swing. Holy hell. Well, back at Ishgard, we talk to the gang again, and Riel and Sid seem to be in a better spot, but Sid stands up with Riel and says he will still take her on as the charge. Woo. What a story. I've said this a few times regarding the story in this game, but specifically the story for class progression always ends up being top notch. Seriously, I have loved how in depth the story is just for us to unlock some potential for our own class. Now, I will say that leveling to level 60 was a bit arduous, mainly roulette spammy, but man, this story was really, really worth it. It truly makes you feel a part of the grief of Riel and the vengeance of Sid. Despite being the warrior of light, you feel a lot less aggressive here and more of a continuation of the story of Frey, whose body we found at the beginning of the Dark Knight's quest originally. By the way, our anger and grief inhabited the body and made it manifest into, well, us. I actually really felt bad for Riel. It gave that somber feeling that she was just a child who wanted her mother's love. And I was actually very proud of Sid, because when he went to go and execute her mother, he showed restraint despite her being psychotic. And I've said this a number of times, but man, this really does set a standard for storytelling. Wow. I unlocked the Dark Knight quest a bit ago, and this was my reaction to the wild story that was there. Otherwise, stay caffeinated, folks.